I hear a second?
Yep. Marijuana in 18. This basically for recreational marijuana 2018.
All opposed?
Telecommunications overlay district of the Lenox bylaw by taking the actions described in Article 27. Explain. Yep. A couple members of the public recently that we had law and that language that's supposed to regulate repeaters in the sections that they should be in to make it in compliance.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Because I expect to be up here a little while. Ready, Chris? I'll make the motion. Article 28, Mr. Moderator, I'm placing a conservation restriction on town-owned land as published under Article 28 of the warrant for this annual town meeting provided reasonably vary from the form and substance of the requested legislation petition. So many of you are saying right now, motion.
Here we go. Explanation.
Many of you are thinking this is deja vu all over again, and you're absolutely correct. The town already voted twice meeting, and our November 14, 2014 to approve go to Mass Department of Environmental Protection, and they approved, and it would go on to the state legislature. Now, however, Mass DEP took so long that the legislature wants us to vote again.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries again.
Yeah. All right. Article 29. Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer and control of 2 parcels of town-owned land located on Yoken Ridge, and being the fire tower lot, map 26, parcel 1, 26, parcel 2, from the board or commission having the care, custody, and control, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to convey said properties to Massachusetts Audubon Society. Hang on, squared away. Incorporated be conveyed to the town of Massachusetts, being the Peretti lot, map 22, parcel 10, and the Costello lot, map 21, parcel 4. The Peretti lot and the Costello lot together, commonly known as a portion of Kennedy Park, to be held by the Board of Selectmen in perpetuity for conservation and recreational purposes, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept said properties from Massachusetts Audubon Society, Incorporated, which properties shall be designated for and dedicated to the protections of Article Massachusetts. Further, provided that the Board of Selectmen shall be authorized to petition the General Court for Special Wealth of Massachusetts. You guys do it on commercials. Unless the Board of Selectmen approves amendments to the bill before enactment by the General Court, which are within the scope of the Selectmen to execute.
Explanation.
Whew. All right. It's a lot easier than that, folks. The lot, as is the fire tower lot up here, that's just under 2,000 square feet. It's not a significant piece of land in terms of a splitting line. You have the Costello lot, 48.8 acres, and the Peretti lot, which has a plaque to Peter Peretti on it, by the way, of 75 acres. These 2 parcels are presently owned by the Massachusetts Audubon Society, Incorporated. This article, a positive vote in this article would allow us to swap town land for Audubon land. Now, why go about doing this? There are quite a few good reasons. Us as a town, we're getting more than we're giving, and what we're getting is land inside. We've been using it with an indulgence from the mass against their actual use regulations. They don't allow dogs, they don't allow bicycles. It protects our ongoing use of the park, as most of us have come to enjoy it. We'll continue to manage it the way we're managing it. And we are property we all know very well. And I think that pretty much does it.
I'm the chairman of the Kennedy Park Committee, and I wholeheartedly support this article. Also, it's a win-win proposition for the town of Lenox and for our beloved Kennedy Park, and I strongly urge the town to support this amendment.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. The next three articles, as you can see from the warrant, approve Lenox Road LLC, also known as the Lenox Manor, owned by the Mahita Hospitality Group, and Brushwood through it to clear up anything that might be not clear to people. So, in our explanation, state of Massachusetts is the empowering authority for this program. This occurs under the Massachusetts Office of Business Development, their Economic Development Incentive Program, and which is designed to empower communities, as it says here, to enter into agreements in order to promote investment, to offer tax incentives should they choose. In Massachusetts, we have been long part of what's known as the Berkshire Economic Target Area back when we first did it, and the only other time we've done it. Local approval to the town of Lenox. In the case of the hotels, Joe Toole approached two selectmen and said that he would like to apply for a tax and Grony project as an example. Had a right to apply, and his application would be entertained when the Toole project was application for TIF. They applied in 2015 before they had done any significant work on the property and before the groundbreaking ground of March of 2016. What happened then, when we got the application, was that the Board of Selectmen realized we didn't have a process in place for review of a tax incentive package. And we all felt it was important, rather than just shooting from the hip, that we ask our staff, primarily Gwen Miller, our town planner and land use director, to do research on tax incentive packages, how they're being used in the state, how they're being used, to understand exactly what they mean, and to draft a new set of guidelines for the Board of Selectmen to utilize that would be objective and transparent to everyone, that would be published on a town website that everybody could see, and that would allow us to rate projects. That resulted in, up here, the Board of Selectmen adopting a new policy to objectively review tax incentive requests. We received input from the Planning Board, the Board of Assessors, Zoning Board of Appeals, Mass Office of Business Development, and, as I said, examples from other communities. The policy also set a timetable for monitoring each incentive package, and also made clear the state's very strict about businesses living up to their obligations under their agreements, because the state will, if you are to approve this, and they monitor, and we have a monitoring regime in place for us to monitor these businesses to make sure they're living up to their obligations, I say, under the agreements. So, next. So, in a TIF and an STA. Morrison Home is asking for a TIF tax, and the basic owner, the exemptions are only applied, says the project, or hand, can apply a total exemption of the property value. And this can occur in over lengths of time that are to be determined by the board. What we have chosen in our guidelines, and you'll see repeatedly emphasized here, is that we are not willing at this point to go beyond 5 packages. So, again, quickly, the criteria put together for us and that we approved, scoring matrix, and the emphasis that we placed on scores for companies was jobs. We thought investment was important and should be considered. We did not score it per se because we also felt it was important for us to empower with tax incentive packages, should they be approved, small businesses that want to just expand a little bit. There are a couple of people who have intentions to expand. They're also rewarded because we want to keep businesses here, even if their investment isn't enormous. Also wanted to emphasize decisions about plan viewed in the master plan, things like wanting to have development in the Gateway District, development in Lenox-Dale, have projects that we're going to add infrastructure and draw new businesses to places where we want business, how they're working, how the projects are working, and to modify them if we feel that they need to be modified. Mention of businesses in an existing business in Lenox. Total private investment, how much businesses are willing to, the hotels, there's a significant amount of dollars being put at risk, investment dollars being put at risk. Will the project result in added tax benefits and all the other things you see here? One other thing I think it's interesting to note is that we've added Section 13. Does the project meet objectives of sustainable, sensitive to, or in the Gateway District? We want businesses that we all feel meet the values of a town like Lenox in terms of health, things that we're struggling with on a national and international level. I'll take you quickly. Is Route 7 and 20 is highlighted as a desirable place to be. Lenox Village area, desirable. And I'm very hopeful that businesses will see a willingness on the part of the town to friendly in ways Lenox-Dale area. Businesses seeking to expand is on there again. And then and this is a very, on the next page, this is very important to the state. They are focused a lot, is all about. We put an emphasis ourselves on higher paying jobs, numbers of jobs. And lastly, on in this scoring tool, our scoring matrix, do something for the town that the structure. At blighted or vacant properties, that's certainly the case for Morrison Home. And that's one of the reasons you see them get a high score there. Smart growth and compact development, green business practices, B Corp certification, etc. Environmental performance, and is very desirable, I think, for our town. And then all those scores are put together. And if you score, as you'll see in the left-hand side, score, and the 5-year TIF on one side and STA on the other that I described, percentages are then a mid-score and a high score. All of the businesses that are on the town warrant tonight scored in the high are amenable. We felt in the TIF and STA program in terms of percentages, and that we felt was reasonable for the town. So, it took until now, almost now, to get these guidelines together. I want to clear up one possible misunderstanding before the thing has happened at all. But a lot of people think that they just have recently applied and they're far along. And the fact of the matter is that their intentions were made known a long time ago. And that our process, who maybe and special town meetings, and process that was healthy. I'm jealous of the fact that Pittsfield is able to turn around their special tax incentives more quickly. They have a city council form of government which allows them to do that. We don't get to turn around quickly. In the infinite wisdom of the state, we go to town meeting with our tax packages, but it does for businesses often having to make a decision based on costs that are before you. They chose to go ahead because waiting was scores in general for the 3 properties. I'll get into more specifically when we come around to their articles, but This will give you an idea of total score for each, level of investment for each. You can see there are significant amounts of investment, number of jobs to be created. There's an asterisk on 25 on the Brushwood LLC, number of 20, because there was an earlier chart that people might have seen that showed a slightly higher number, and that this is amended to the correct number. It's not a recent change, but we want to make sure that anybody who saw that formally understands why that's slightly less. And then the estimated level of taxes foregone over 5 years. Morrison Home, $34,409. Brushwood LLC, $488,519. Again, the town will still receive its sewer, water, and tourist taxes. That's rooms and meals. And in the case of Lenox Manor, $582,517. Again, receiving sewer and water and tourist taxes. Sewer and water hookup fees, in particular for Brushwood, are quite high because they're a new business, and it's a significant source of revenue for what we run as an enterprise fund for the sewer and water areas. Next steps. A favorable vote will authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute local agreements and submit materials to the EACC, that's the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council, of which one of our townspeople, David Cater, is a member, by the way. That's the reviewing body at the state level. It will also empower the applicants to seek project certification from the EACC and receive both local and state incentives. As I said, the 3 projects have applied for the kind of state incentives that will require them to get local incentives first. A negative vote result in no local tax incentive agreement and no tax incentive for the applicants. So before we get to the articles, just let me say that the majority of the BOS Board of Selectmen put these articles on the warrant because based on our research, the extensive research of our staff, the board believes that tax incentives do work as a tool for a healthy, goal-oriented economic development, and that approving these 3 has the potential to attract other new businesses to Lenox. And this comes at a time when we have a number of vacant spaces, including the Niagara Mill, the old Price Chopper, and many storefronts in the village. There's virtually no impact and no downside, no noticeable difference in anyone's taxes as a result of this, no effect on town services or the town's goals for the future. This is tax that's not collected. It's not money that is coming out of your pockets. The town is in good shape. We can afford this small investment, especially with regard to a primary industry, tourism, with regard to 2 of these requests. Now, as we go through each article, it'll be up to you guys to decide. And you'll be hearing from opponents, I'm sure. And I hope you'll ask them to explain what the actual risks to you are, not imagined or fabricated risks. Exactly what is it you're supposed to be afraid of? They should explain how their opposition will generate economic development in an increasingly competitive environment. People think that we can just go on being Lenox and that's enough. And Lenox is a great place, but in terms of economic development, it's not enough. We're in competition with other towns especially for rooms and meals. And we're losing our market share presently to Williamstown, Great Barrington, and other projected projects in places like Lee. They should explain to you exactly why the state, which in 2016 certified 60 incentive packages, including some for hotels, and already 13 more packages in 2017, is wrong to support this use of tax incentives by this town. They should explain to you why these 3 businesses, with enormous amounts of money at risk, don't deserve our help in improving their chances to succeed, or maybe to add another employee, or to do more marketing. They should explain to you exactly why there is no potential upside here. After that, I trust your decision will be based on a thoroughly considered judgment about what is in the town's best interest, not just today, but tomorrow and years from now, because Lenox is in a position to look toward the future and needs to look toward the future in healthy and smart ways. With that, Mr. Moderator, I move Article 30, once I can find it. Excuse me for 1 second while I find all these. You should see it up here. It's a little crazy. Somebody have that article for me, please. Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take the steps necessary to enter into a tax increment financing agreement between Morrison Home Improvement and the town of Lenox in substantially the form on file with the town clerk, the Morrison Home Improvement TIF agreement, pursuant to Chapter 40, Section 59 of the general laws, and any other enabling authority for the property located at 25 Pittsfield Road, Assessors Map 17, Parcel 37. Authorize the Board of Selectmen to execute the TIF agreement and any documents relating thereto, and to take such other actions as are necessary or appropriate to implement the agreement, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to submit the necessary documents and forms to the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council for the Morrison Home Improvement Center TIF agreement, and any project application or other submissions required for the agreement.
Explanation. Shorter this time, please.
Yes, I think you have the explanation. I know that there probably will be people who want to speak on behalf of Morrison Home, and I would just remind you this is for a TIF, so that Morrison Home would be paying the base tax on the base value, and their taxation would increase over the course of 5 years to match the increased value in the property.
Wayne Lemansky.
Hey, Wayne.
Wayne Lemansky, 15 Frothingham Crossing, current chairman of the Board of Assessors. Mr. Moderator, we have a lot of explaining to do. Each year, the Board of Selectmen, town manager, and the Finance Committee put together a budget that balances the projected expenses with the projected revenue. During the budget process, department heads are usually asked to keep increases to a minimum, level fund, or perhaps to make cuts. During the budget process, I have never heard a discussion on how we can cut revenue. A yes vote on tonight's Article 30, 31, and 32 is asking you to cut potential revenue. Real estate and personal property taxes currently contribute 55% of the town's revenue. That supports the expenses. In addition, it is the one component of revenue that could be impacted by Proposition 2.5. The Board of Assessors feels it is important to continue to maximize revenue from real estate and personal property taxes to continue to lessen the risk of Proposition 2.5. Over the period, it is estimated that $1 million in potential tax revenue will be exempted by passage of these articles. Proponents argue that we should not overlook additional contributions in additional hotel, motel, and meals taxes. The businesses in Article 31 and 32 will contribute. We agree that that is an important factor, but is difficult to quantify. The increased tax generated by these two projects probably will be somewhat offset if occupancy rates dip at existing motels as a result of this new competition. With or without a tax break, motel and meal taxes will still be required. The Board of Assessors supports the Board of Selectmen's initiative to bring new businesses to town. But tax breaks should only be used as a competitive tool. Offering a tax incentive should be one of the most important reasons the business decided to locate in Lenox. It is the opinion of the Board of Assessors the granting of a tax incentive was not the primary reason for locating in Lenox in these instances. In fact, 2 of the projects have been completed without the approval of these incentives. There seems to be an opinion that Lenox is not business friendly. In truth, Lenox is business friendly, especially to the hospitality industry. We offer cultural attractions, scenic beauty, recreation, and were recently voted the best small northeastern town by USA Today. What attracts business in the hospitality industry is what we offer, not tax incentives. The developers and their lenders determined that Lenox is a great place to do business, even without a tax incentive. Finally, and this I think is one of the biggest risks, Janning, the Board of Assessors is a real concern about the President approving these 3 articles we'll have in the future. The recently developed matrix to score applicants' eligibilities for these programs is heavily weighted to job creation. In the case of the 3 applicants, job creation was a major factor in the Board of Selectmen's support of these projects. The Board of Assessors agrees that job creation is important, but there is no guarantee how many jobs will be created for Lenox residents and how many employees will live in Lenox. Finally, there is currently discussion of a major expansion of an existing hospitality business in Lenox by a national company. If job creation is a major factor in determining eligibility, I would suggest that that company would expect a tax break for their project based on a yes vote tonight. The Board of Assessors recommends a no vote on Article 30.
Okay, any more discussion?
Mr. Moderator, if I may, just one moment. Wayne used the word precedent and worrying about whether or not we're setting a precedent. I just want to make it clear that there is no legal precedent when we grant a tax incentive package. We're not required to follow that up with tax incentive packages for anybody else.
Okay, Frank?
Frank Newton, I live on Main Street in Lenox. And Johnny, thank you for saying that there is no time limit on asking for this, because I did a project on Walker Street a few years ago and I lost well over $2 million. So I would ask if the selectmen can find it in their hearts to help me out.
You can apply.
Nevertheless, we as a town tend not to cut expenses. We hardly ever do that. Consequently, we're talking about forgiveness of about $1,100,000 in taxes for these 3 projects. If we grant that, each of us, everyone here who pays taxes, every family, is going to have to come up with and make up the shortfall, which amounts to $440 a year in your taxes for the next 5 years. You're going to have to make up that shortfall. I'm not telling you how to vote, I'm just giving you these figures. We cannot guarantee room taxes. We can't do that. But we should be collecting taxes from Airbnb, B&B online, and vacation rentals and things of that nature. We don't do that. That's a source of revenue if we want to pursue that. Finally, well, I think I started my discussion that way. I lost well over $2 million on the project. I can't tell you why, but I would ask you now to perhaps reimburse me for some of that. Thanks for your time.
Hi, my name is Ashley Morrison. I'm representing Morrison's Home Improvement, not currently a Lenox resident.
So she's not currently a Lenox resident, so I need a at least 10 people to raise their hands in support of her that she can speak. That should do it. There we go.
So again, my name is Ashley. I'm here tonight with my sister Stephanie and father Steve Morrison, representing our family business, Morrison Home Improvement. We felt it was important for someone to speak on our behalf tonight and tell you a bit about our project, and unfortunately for me and my enormous fear of public speaking, I drew that short straw, so please bear with my nerves. Our company has been working on our expansion and relocation plans for nearly 2 years now. We considered Lenox for numerous factors, one of which was the business incentives it offered. While at the time of applying, no official policy was in place, we were asked to remain patient until the policy was adopted. And although some of you may say we were naive for proceeding, not knowing if the subsidy would be approved, for a small company such as ourselves to remain stagnant on any portion of our expansion plans would have been detrimental from a financial point of view. So we proceeded. And we were reassured that we hold all of the values and fit the criteria that the policy was designed for. Like the program facilitates, we restored one of the town's historic buildings. Built in 1870 and originally part of Brushwood Farms, prior to our acquisition, our building was deemed structurally unsound and sat derelict on the market, depreciating for nearly a decade. And our company not only restored it back to its grandeur, but kept it true to its historic roots. We also wanted to highlight that if granted, the subsidy would be reinvested into the town in the form of job creation and taxable income. And this is case in point with our newest addition to the Morrison staff, Hans Reinhold, who unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, but is a Lenox native, born and raised, and has spent the majority of his adult life working outside of Lenox, outside of Berkshire County more for that fact, until now. Our expansion plans also include the addition of full-time permanent positions, in addition to the 20-plus positions we have moved to the town with our relocation, and that's on top of the numerous local subcontractors we use on a daily basis and the number of vendors that are joining our team. As a business currently competing in the industry, it takes pride to admit that we went well above and beyond our means to complete this project. Money that we had allocated towards other components of our expansion, such as job creation and salaries, was money that we depleted during the stages of our renovation. Look, at the end of the day, we're all here tonight for the love of this town. And we at Morrison's want to thank the people of Lenox for the outpouring of support and praise that we've received regarding the upgrade of our building. Tonight we ask you to support our cause and vote yes on 30 and support our small local business that is now part of your community and asking for your help. Thank you.
Chuck Kosher, Chestnut Lane. So in principle, I agree with the concept of financial incentives to bring businesses to town. And I think each of these three cases tonight, need to stand on their own and not be voted on as a group. Each one needs its own consideration. But I do take objection to the statement that was made earlier that this is not money out of my pocket. It is. These two projects that have already been completed are going to pay that tax, period. And if we vote to approve them, we're paying for that. Okay, so we are taking money out of our pocket for those two things. I think all of the criteria that you had on your chart were very interesting, and I guess I might debate you on some of the weightings that you provide to certain ones or the others. But the one, number 11, really jumped out at me, and it was the one that said, without the incentive, the project will not happen in Lenox. And I think that one really stands head and shoulders over all the others. Because if we're trying to bring business to the town, then making it happen in Lenox is the most important thing. And so I'd like to have everyone consider each of these three things on their own basis, but it is going to cost us money.
Mr. Moderator, Tom Romeo, 54 Reynolds Street. The Channing was saying, ask people what you're fearful of. And we've gone through periods of time in Lenox where we've really struggled to have the revenue that we've needed. I believe back in the year 2000, around there, we had about a 20% gap in terms of our levy limit, that we had a lot of room. Our levy limit now is what, 950 or 990, about 5%. So we've lost a lot of that. We hear every year about how the struggle's going forward. In regards to what Chuck was saying, the numbers that I have, and I agree that every one of these should be taken on their own because they're very different, and the impact is different. If you add up all the numbers you're talking about $1,105,624. What does that mean to you and me? If, and it's a big if the town had to raise that amount of money for expenditures going down the road, that would equate to, if you look at a typical assessment, and you can use mediums or averages, I used about $328,000. For a house, a value of about $328,000, for a typical homeowner, that would be equivalent to about 476 families. So the money that we would be foregoing here would be equivalent to that. In regards to the projects that are almost done or done, their new assessments would happen as of the following year. Their assessments would start as of next year. So it is potentially a big burden. Morrison is probably the lowest in terms of, that would be equivalent to about the taxes that about 6 families would pay. But the other one, 475 around in there, that's an enormous amount of a tax break. I'm sure, I don't know if there's that many people here today, but that would be kind of like all the taxes you paid would be equivalent to what we're going to give away.
Mr. Moderator, I must respond.
No, can't comment on each one. We'll wait till the end and I'll call you back.
All right.
George House, 228 Kemble Street in Lenox. I think we're missing a big point here. These people built or are building these places. They know they're going to be paying full tax in time. They know that we were working on the relief program. They're hoping that they could get in on this relief program. It's not that it's costing you $400 a year in your taxes. It's you're going to be getting that much as all of them add up to their full price. I'd say you stick it to these guys. Who else is going to come to Lenox and say, I'm going to try to do something because it looks like they're going to be favorable to me? It would not be me. And I'd say, vote yes for this. We need these kinds of things, and we need more of them. Thank you.
Jim Biancola, 136 Main Street. Everything Mr. House just said, and I take issue with discussing Article 30 and talking about the $1 million, okay? Because it's not clear to me that everybody separates the numbers. For this Article 30, if I read it right, we're talking about a $20,000 difference, and to me, my portion of that $20,000, multiple times that portion, is well worth what this small family business has done to that building.
Mr. Moderator, Frederick Cater, Lee Road. I just want to ask people to not be confused with the facts. We just passed $12.8 million for the school, which is a fabulous school. If we divide the number of Lenox students that are educated in this school, which is about 60% of the 720, that comes to about 430, 440, that's $29,000 a student we spent. There are many people in town who don't have children. They don't send their children to school, but we still pay our taxes. We still support the school. We need to do the same thing with business. And if we don't, we're going to be in dire straits. Thank you.
Susan May, Old Stockbridge Road. First, I need to ask the question, is this discussion for all three projects?
No, this is
even though we're
discussion
gonna,
just for Morrison.
Just for Morrison. Okay, I'll wait then.
Hi, Robert Alderton, Birchwood Lane. I think, like many people here, the biggest concern I have on this whole issue is it seems like it's being approached realistically as a retroactive handback. It's really not being pitched as an incentive. And I think we should have incentives to bring businesses here. And I think the biggest problem that you're missing, and I think you alluded to, was unlike Pittsfield, where they have a council process, we need to put a process in place where you can act in a timely manner to incentivize businesses. So I think we need to wrap this with a periodic town special meeting to address that issue to incentivize businesses. For the ones that are already built, I don't believe we should be giving them a tax handout. I really don't. It very much, he builds a property and then tries to stick it to him saying, well, hey, this is what I think I should pay for taxes. I don't like that. We should incentivize. We should have a new mechanism to enable those to go through quickly, but I don't think we should give them a handout tonight.
My name is Hank Mayman. I live at 32 Hubbard. I tend to disagree with a number of folks who feel like we need to approach this, or we should only approach this on one time or one article at a time. And I do appreciate that we're looking just at Article 30 at the moment. But I think in fairness, it was the delay of the town that brought both of these currently in process projects to us at a much later date than they wanted. And in fairness to all three businesses, however you decide to vote, I think it's important that they be all treated fairly and the same. So I disagree with the notion that we need to look at these based on the fact that one company may have almost completed their project and another one hasn't put the shovel in the ground. I think we need to be treating them equally. The second point I want to make is that if I do understand the arithmetic correctly, the $1 million roughly that we're talking about is over a 5-year period. So it's only, I'm not saying only in the sense that it's not significant, but it is $200,000 a year of lost revenue. So it's not as great a number as it sounds. Not that it's insignificant. But I do believe that we need to be incentivizing businesses, and I don't think someone should pay a penalty for the fact that it took the town a longer time than they hoped to put this in place.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The difficulty with what's happening here tonight is that we're actually partly discussing a policy and partly because the policy was essentially introduced to you through the slideshow that Mr. Channing Gibson presented on behalf of the selectmen. And then a series of questions followed that, which suggested that they needed to be answered, but, you know, in how? Because we can't really answer unless you're going to allow a rebuttal to a great deal of that information. This is the first time most people have considered economic development policy at all, and the whole question of incentives. Happens to be, I'm a policy person. I've had a long time interest in this. I've done a lot of study and reading. And if you could grant me a few minutes, there are fair rebuttals to an awful lot of what's gone on and what's going on, and that includes even with EDIP itself. Let's just say this. Lenox is part of the regional economy. If the regional economy grows, everybody benefits. Everybody. If that pie gets bigger, we all benefit. If the parts of the pie move around, there's really not much of a benefit because they're going to expand wherever they expand or grow wherever they grow, but the pie doesn't get bigger. So it's just like rearranging the deck chairs. So if you have a couple of company headquarters come out of your region and into your town, that's great for us, certainly, but it doesn't change what's going on in the regional economy, and that's the driver. The next thing is this. I went back and looked at the 2015, 2016, and the current up to 4/7/17 projects that have been accepted by EDIP. One of the concerns that EDIP actually had in 2015 was reported in their 2015 report. And essentially it said, one of our goals for 2016 is try to move away from this entitlement mentality and back to the if but for the incentives. That's actually in their report. Anybody who wants to see it, it's right here. Incentives like this have been around a long time. They have a long history in the United States. The Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, pretty credible organization, does great research. The Upjohn Institute, all sorts of studies and information is out there about how these incentives work and whether or not they work, but used to be called at the state level. Now it's like the state and city level. Now it's like the state, city, and local level. From 2015 on, there were 107 projects that EDIP approved, all different kinds. Essentially, yes, their emphasis is on jobs, but it's not any jobs, because that's part of the problem. It's on jobs that pay well. Service jobs are very, very, if you look at the reports, you'll see service next to very, very few of them. We're talking about manufacturing retention, we're talking about distribution and warehouse, we're talking about all kinds of good jobs. Berkshire County is about 2% of the population of Massachusetts. So the EACC is going to give us something for projects that come from Berkshire County. So Hotel on North got some incentives. The new Innovation Center, I think it was, also got some incentives. But by and large, those 107 projects were coming from gateway cities and really distressed areas. The gateway cities are going to get priority over anything we send because Pittsfield is our gateway city, but it's, we're not Pittsfield, so we're not going to be considered. The key is that jobs are meaningful. We already have what Channing has referred to as what's known as a location quotient, our more than share of hotel rooms in Lenox. We should be delighted that other places in the county are also adding hotel rooms. That's great. That's wonderful for us. Because essentially, we don't want to win the prize in the most number of hotel rooms, because that has to do with how occupations are paid. We have a lot of occupations, and again, I'm talking to you as policy. All right? Nothing about specific projects, but the occupations and the service things here that we're talking about, I would be concerned that we're not putting our incentives in the right spot. The planning board did a lot of work. Gwen Miller did a huge amount of work. Everybody's done a lot of work on this. We went to the Board of Selectmen in September with planning board recommendations that really didn't seem to have been picked up. And what we said is, target those incentives, because from the research, Federal Reserve Bank of Boston and everybody else, that's where it works. You target it. So you target it to a place, you target it to certain kinds of jobs, and then you say, you are drawing somebody to come in. Now, the research on all of this is that it sounds great, this is wonderful, incentivizing business is a great thing. It is, but not for the public. It's for the developers. All right, the research shows that most of the benefits are going to go to private interests. They just are. That's how this works. Now, to back up for 1 minute, don't think for a minute that...
1 second.
Stay on Article 30. All right? The three projects that we have before us, including Morrison's, say that they have to get the local incentive to be eligible for the state. It is highly unlikely they're going to get it, from a competitive point of view, for any number of reasons, one of which is service jobs really are not what the state is looking to put their money into. Really, they've opened this whole program up, all kinds of local money, and it's loosened up all kinds of state money, but these projects aren't going to do it. The hotels that Channing mentioned are boutique hotels, okay, who are getting and they're not getting state incentives. You are absolutely correct on that, but it's difficult to respond. We could go back through the slideshow, and I could probably give you responses to each of the things that were brought up here. But let me just say this.
Is this on 30, Katie, please? That's twice.
Okay.
Is this on 30?
Any of the projects,
I'm on
particularly 30. Lenox is not some kind of spinster who needs a dowry to find a suitor. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator.
1 second. I'll let Channing, 1 second. Brief Channing and then Bob.
Well, I want to stick to Morrison, which is the object of this article. It's important to notice what Jim Biancola said. This is a foregoing of taxes over a 5-year period of $34,000, and at a time when our town budget over those 5 years is going to be in the $140 million area. And there's so many things to answer, but I want to stick to Morrison as best I can. The 5-year scenario is important. This isn't that $34,000 is not a check you could get tomorrow if this doesn't pass. That's not the way it works. You've heard a lot, but I haven't heard one single real downside. Romeo has tried to say that there's a problem foregoing $34,000 for Morrison because we're going to reach our levy limit and catastrophe is going to ensue. I just don't see that. I don't see any reason to think that our town budgets aren't going to survive these next 5 years, accomplishing all the things that we want to accomplish, providing the services you all expect, and meeting our goals. So the planning board was listened to. Some of their suggestions were incorporated. And I just want to also say this has not come out of the blue. There have been numerous Board of Selectmen meetings about these guidelines. Numerous meetings. So anybody who's surprised by this, I'm sorry, but that's not because it wasn't out there.
Mr. Moderator. Bob McNinch, 421 East Street. I'd like to call the question on Article 30.
Okay. There's been a motion to call the question that's not debatable. So if you think you've heard enough and you're ready to vote on this, vote yay. If you want to hear more, vote nay. All in favor of the motion to call the question? Yay. Opposed? The yeas have it. We call the question. Now this is a vote on Article 30. All in favor of the article, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. The ayes have it.
I don't know about that one.
You want to call for a hand vote? Yep, that's fine. So we're going to call for a hand vote, which means that if you have your blue voter cards, please. When I ask for a positive vote, hold your cards up high and keep them in the air until you're counted. So all those in favor, please put your cards in the air. Okay, I think you can put your hands down now. Okay, all those opposed, please raise your hands and your cards. Okay, the vote is 169 yeas to 92 nays. The yeas carry. Article 31.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a special tax assessment agreement with 130 Pittsfield Lenox Road, LLC, or its successor in substantially the form on file with the town clerk pursuant to the provisions of Massachusetts general laws, including sections 3A to 3F of Chapter 23A, Section 59 of Chapter 40, Section 5 of Chapter 59, and any other enabling authority in connection with the redevelopment of the property located at 130 Pittsfield Road, Assessor's Map 22, Parcel 36, as described in the Economic Development Incentive Program application prepared by 130 Pittsfield Lenox Road, LLC, and authorize the Board of Selectmen to take such action as is necessary to obtain approval of that application and implement the special tax assessment agreement. This is 130 Pittsfield Lenox Road, LLC is also known as Lenox Manor. This is the Magnuson Hotel up on Route 7 and 20 that has asked for an STA.
Okay, Wayne Lemansky.
Wayne Lemansky, 15 Frothingham Crossing, current chairman of the Board of Assessors. The Lenox Board of Assessors recommends the defeat of Article 32. Approval of this article will result in an estimated potential revenue loss of close to $600,000 for the period of the special tax agreement. In granting a special tax
Wayne,
agreement...
this is our 31.
I'm sorry, 31. In granting a special tax agreement, the Board of Assessors feels it is important to distinguish between a business that is locating in Lenox because of a tax break versus a business that is locating in Lenox for the business opportunity Lenox provides. It is the opinion of the Board that the businesses in the hospitality industry are attracted by the opportunity in Lenox and not the tax break. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sweta Pandya. I am a current resident of Lenox, 8 Homeswood Terrace, and owner and operator of Magnuson Hotel. we own that business for 18 years now, taxpayer in the town. Recently, I lost my husband of 28 years old, my business partner. We worked very hard to survive, and you all know that that building is very, very old, the oldest hotel in the town. During a tough time, Mahida family came forward and proposed a development plan. They asked me to replace the building with a newer building that can be beneficial to me and my family and also for the town. I am very grateful to Mahida family that they came forward during the tough time when I needed the most support. It's been hurtful to hear that my property is done deal, like, you know, the project is done deal, but it is not. The property purchase is, we are waiting for the voters, like, you know, approval. My family and I, we are waiting for 1 year for this approval, and I am respectfully seeking your support with yes vote. That would be very helpful for me because I guess we all are looking for replacing the old building, and, you know, especially me and my family, we need the most. I now ask Mr. Moderator's approval that non-resident representative of Mahida family be allowed to speak briefly.
Okay, this is a non-resident of town. I need 10 hands to show that you want to allow him to speak. Okay.
My name is David Carpenter. I set the record straight on one key element and also comment on one other element. I am the Director of Administration for the Mahida Family Hospitality Interests. The last new hotel built in the Berkshires that is opened is the Hilton Garden Inn behind Guido's, 50 feet north of the Lenox line. Interestingly, you've been told tonight that Lenox is the only place that a developer of a hotel would want to open a hotel. Not the case, because you see hotels being permitted in Stockbridge, Great Barrington, Williamstown, our hotel right over the line. We were asked by people, was famous history. It was the first branded hotel in the Berkshires back in the 60s. We have not purchased the land yet. So when people get up and say, it's a done deal, I feel very bad for Mrs. Pandya, because obviously we have other options. We have a hotel permitted in Great Barrington that we could get started on. This process, which the town went through, where we and 2 other projects waited for over a year for an answer, isn't a bad thing. It's a good thing in a sense, because there was a lot of thought, a lot of input put into a process, and at the end, they're putting it before the people. Please understand that this year delay caused our construction costs to go up by about 10%. And this tax relief, which will be more than offset by the rooms tax that you'll get if we build this hotel, is an important opportunity for Lenox, and we'd appreciate your support.
Any other comments?
Hi, Paula King, 89 Hubbard Street. I just wanted to make a comment with regards to the difference between a TIF and an STA. There is differences, one being, you know, the employment mechanism of it. The TIF, your environmental, you know, improvements that the taxpayer has put into the property. With an STA, you're giving them 100% forgiveness. With this hotel right now, it's on the tax rolls for approximately $3.2 million. So you're going to lose in those first years that tax revenue, where with a TIF you would still have that base value but would be forgiving what the investment has been made. So I did just want to clarify that one of the differences is that the incremental forgiveness is on the total value, not just what the improvement is on the property. And I think that that is significant. So thank you. Susan May, Old Stockbridge Road, and now it's time to talk about hotels. One of the things that Mr. Gibson talked about in explaining the incentives was that the creation of jobs got a lot of points and weighed heavily. I want us to think about what kinds of jobs we want to bring to Lenox. Kate McNulty talked about service jobs, and essentially what that means is that a lot of service jobs are minimum wage, and in this area may be seasonal. So do we want to create a lot of seasonal jobs at hotels for minimum wage? I'm guessing. I know that there will be some management too. But out of that total number of jobs, how many of them are the jobs that you would want or that you would want for your children to be able to live in Lenox? And the second thing about hotels is I'm wondering if they are being overbuilt in this area. We're talking about these two hotels right now. There's also the ones that have
Susan,
been...
I'm just going to stop. This is not about the validity of hotels. It's about a tax incentive to this business. So can we keep it on that?
But what type of business is important,
it's a tax
I think?
incentive. Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
still
so-
about the tax incentive, not about the validity of the
I
business.
think it is about the kind of business because and we need to think about what kinds of jobs those businesses provide and whether that will really bring something new to the town. Hotels in the tourist industry, there are hotels being built all over the county. Are there going to be enough tourists to fill all those rooms? We really need to think about that. And if there are enough tourists to fill all those rooms, will they put all of the lovely B&Bs and historic inns and other facilities that makes Lenox so lovely, will they be putting them out of business?
Those are actually the exact points I wanted to address. Cameron Spalding, I'm chair of the planning board. I'm also the director of the Lenox Chamber of Commerce. What kind of jobs are they going to create? We know that because they're willing to sign an STA. If they didn't sign an STA, we would have no idea what kind of jobs they're going to create. It'd be up to them. But because they've agreed to sign this deal, we know that they will create 5 jobs that pay over $40,000 a year and 3 jobs that pay over $50,000 a year. If you look at the income numbers for Lenox, there's no doubt that overall these would be considered in Lenox higher paying jobs. We also know that they've agreed to prioritize Lenox residents. They've signed that in the agreement, which we've mentioned before. And this particular project has agreed to help build a hospitality pipeline, something that this particular developer has done in Great Barrington with Lenox Public Schools, that they'll work through all the way through the Lenox Public Schools into BCC is where their current program works. And what's different about this hotel, there is something different. We do have a lot of great hotel properties and inns and B&Bs. We don't have any with an event space that can be open to market in those shoulder and off season that we always talk about. This project builds the largest event space we've seen in this area. Everywhere else has small little 100-person rooms. We can fit larger events into this space and diversify into a much larger season. So it does offer something new. It offers jobs at a higher paying salary, and I always think we forget when we talk about this tourism industry what it also creates. No matter what the job is at the hotel, if we didn't have massive hotel development in this town, would we need a full-time town planner? You can look at other towns and see if they have them. Would we need to have a full-time Chamber of Commerce director and a full-time marketing coordinator at the Chamber of Commerce? I don't know if you would if we didn't have the tourism industry that we have, and all of those jobs are far above the salaries that I even mentioned before. So what you create a spillover of a lot of other jobs, asking you the construction companies that are going to work for this company, the electricians that are going to service it, all of the landscaping companies that'll work there, and there's a lot of jobs for people that can live right here in Lenox that'll be created by projects like this one. Thank you.
Mary Jane Mattina,
No.
Hubbard Street. Oh.
Hugh Cowing, 50 St. Anne's Avenue, Lenox. Mr. Moderator, I look at this program as a very worthwhile program, but my understanding of it is it's an incentive to bring in a business which would not be here otherwise. It's to be able to bring in somebody who will present a new employer, a new method of doing business, a new employer and a new way of doing business. We certainly have an awful lot of motels, and there hasn't been any incentive to get them built other than the fact that the people who own motels and run motels and have the chains do the surveys, do the studies, figure out this is the place to build it because you're going to be able to fill it and you're going to get a good return on your investment. And I see no reason to be using this program to subsidize a program that obviously is working very well without any incentives. Thank you.
Mary Jane Mattina, Hubbard Street. I actually have just two quick questions for clarification. The question is, these incentives get transferred if the ownership of the business gets transferred?
Yes, it says in the
article.
article.
I think you did say that. So presumably, if one of the presenters tonight wants to sell the business while the program is in operation to an out-of-area concern or a consortium, they can do that, and this transfers with them.
Yes, and the requirements transfer with it.
Okay.
The requirements of their application.
And then the second question is, what is the provision if a business fails that we've just given the incentive to?
Gwen, do you have a clear answer for that? Clearer than I can give?
Gwen Miller, Land Use Director, Town Planner. So one point of input we heard frequently from the Planning Board and other residents who participated in the crafting of our policy was that it was very important that if a business does fail or does not meet their benchmark, is that we, the town, our interest is protected no matter what happens with the business. So we have a clawback provision that we will ask for the taxes we were supposed to receive back from that business, whether they go out of business, whether they don't meet their benchmarks identified in their agreement. And also, the town can vote to revoke these agreements and bring a request for revocation to the state if we find in a year's time or 2 years' time if they're not meeting the goals they've identified and we've identified in the agreements as being reasons for even considering these incentives.
So then the town can become a creditor, or the town can engage in litigation to settle this? Is that what we're basically saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Jim Harwood, 34 Walker. Channing, you asked a question which I need to ask a question about. You said, why would the state support this? that should be addressed than someone who objects the issuance of the STA in this case, correct?
I'm sorry?
You said if you're going to object to this, can you justify why the state supports it and you don't? Was that pretty much a summary of what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When someone pays income tax and they live in Lenox, who gets that tax? Does the state get it or does the town get it?
State gets it. and
State
the
gets
federal
it.
government
So
gets
we're taking real estate tax forgiveness and transferring it into income tax. So the reason the state wants it is a business doesn't have to pay real estate tax, which supports the local schools, but does have to pay a salary, which becomes income tax that goes into the state coffers. Could that be an explanation of why the state would support it, but locally we might not?
I suspect that's the point you're trying to make.
Yeah, okay.
Al Harper, Under Mountain Road. Call the question.
Okay. So there's a motion to call the question. It's not debatable. So if you think you've heard enough, vote yay on the vote to call the question. If you want to hear more, vote nay. All in favor of calling the question?
Yay.
All opposed? Okay, so vote on Article 31. Let's do a hand vote just to make everyone happy this time. We'll come up over there.
All those in favor?
That's a good point. Okay, all in favor of Article 31, please lift your cards up high. Okay, hands down. All opposed, please raise your hands high. Okay, hands down. The vote is 120 yeas, 159 nays. It does not carry.
Mr. Moderator, Article 32, I move that the town vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a special tax assessment agreement with Brushwood LLC or its successor in substantially the form on file with the town clerk pursuant to the provisions of Massachusetts general laws, including sections 3A to 3F of Chapter 23A, Section 59 of Chapter 40, Section 5 of Chapter 59, and any other enabling authority in connection with the development of the property at 70 Pittsfield Road, Assessors Map 17, Parcel 4-1, as described in the Economic Development Incentive Program application prepared by Brushwood LLC, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take such action as is necessary to obtain approval of that application and implement the special tax assessment agreement. I just will note that Brushwood is known as the Marriott Hotel on application for an STA.
Wayne Lemansky.
Wayne Lemansky, 15 Frothingham Crossing, current chairman of the Board of Assessors. The Lenox Board of Assessors recommends the defeat of Article 32. Approval of this article will result in an estimated potential revenue loss of close to $500,000 for the period of the special tax assessment. In granting a special tax agreement, the Board of Assessors feels it is important to distinguish between a business that is locating in Lenox because of a tax break versus a business that is locating in Lenox for the business opportunity Lenox provides. It is the opinion of the board that the businesses in the hospitality industry are attracted by the opportunity in Lenox and not by the tax break. Thank you.
Judy Moss, West Street. I call the vote.
Okay. The question has been called. This is not debatable. If you think you have heard enough about this item, vote yay on this. If you want to hear more, give other people a chance to talk, vote nay. So all in favor of calling the question, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Okay, the vote is on Article 32. Let's do a hand vote. All in favor, please raise your hands high.
Wait a minute. Are you voting on the article itself?
Article 32, yeah.
Call the question. Call the question passed? Oh, okay.
I didn't say that? Sorry. Call the question passed. Now we're voting on Article 32. Yes, sir.
I asked that we take a standing vote on the second motion to pass over.
What?
I asked that you take a standing vote on the question.
You're questioning the vote? Oh, okay, sure. That's fine then. All in favor of calling the question, please say aye.
Aye.
Sorry. It's a hand vote. Everyone please put their hands up for calling the question. Please say aye. Can we stop? My bad. Go ahead and put your hands down. All those opposed, please raise your hands high. This is just on the calling of the question. This is just on the calling of the question. We have not voted on the article yet. Okay, on calling the question, it's 196 yeas, 61 nays. So we are calling the question, and the vote now is on Article 32. All in favor of Article 32, please signify by raising your hands high. Okay, you can put your hands down. All those opposed, please raise your hands high. You can put your hands down. Okay, the vote is 88 yeas to 180 nays. Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, just don't forget, town meeting tomorrow, Monday. Town election is going to be Monday from 7 to 7. Get out and vote. Thank you all for coming to town meeting. Can I have a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Article 33 is just that's to let you know about the election. That's just to let you know about the election, everybody.